So I'm losing my light. I decided to do this a little bit too late. So I'm going to do one off the top of my head, which is a lot of people are concerned that things are changing. And I would like to say this has been the way it's been for who knows how long. For as long as people have been in a civilization of any sort, it is normal for things to change fairly drastically in a lifetime. If you go back to when there was tended to be kings and emperors and dictators, and the empire was a certain way as long as that certain person ran it, and often changed wildly when the next person came around. Change is frightening, but I would like to remind people that the way things are now, they're not good for everybody. They've been very good for this country for a long time, but it takes a toll on the rest of the world. There is, for everything that you buy, you consume, like all the stuff that I have, a lot of it comes from a place where they can pay people less because they outsource all of that. And it's worse than just the amount of pay that the workers get. A lot of them get what would be considered here slave labor. But also, when you offshore all of that manufacturing, it means all of the pollution and all of the waste that happens as a result of that, it's all somewhere else. So because of that, we benefit. So when we buy a bunch of stuff from China, they pay their people nothing. All of the pollution stays there. And then we end up with the cheap stuff. And it seems like such a good deal. There is more than enough to go around for the amount of people we have on the planet. I mean, at some point, probably not, because we keep having more and more people. We went from the entirety of human civilization, there was probably 500,000 to 500 million, stretching back 100,000 years or more. As soon as we started to industrialize, we went to a 1 billion, and then we were even faster to go to 2 billion. And we went from something like 4 billion to 8 in, 50 years. It's been a while since I've looked at those numbers. It's not quite exponential, but it is incredibly fast, and it was getting faster. Who knows where we'll end up? But right now, there is more than enough to go around, but that's not how it works. We use so much energy in this country. We buy so many things because you're told that you need to buy stuff to be happy. Guess what? People still are miserable here. People are freaking out. People are afraid of change. People feel like there's nothing solid beneath your feet. The reason I don't panic right now, and the reason I hope other people don't panic, is that it's scary when things change, but at least there's some chance it could change for the better. And that would take, everybody coming together and agreeing what it's supposed to be like. And I know that's difficult. It's more difficult to imagine the end of capitalism than it is to imagine the end of everything. And that's because you've been trained since you're a kid. You go to school, you learn to be quiet, sit still, do your homework, take the tests. They're just training you to go to a job where you're going to do essentially that for the rest of your life. And I'm not some commie socialist. I'm not saying that there is necessarily a better fit. But capitalism without guardrails, without intense regulation, always ends this way. Just like communism, without some sort of guardrails, it ends in a similar way. It's not like there wasn't corruption in Russia or China. There's not like there isn't corruption there, those places too. It's not like there's not oligarchs in those places. Same as here. There's billionaires and then there's the rest of us. The thing is, you're not a billionaire. And you need to realize you have more in common with all of those people around you. The poor people, the middle class people, we're all just under the same boots. So as scary as it is for potential upheaval to happen, we have been benefiting from a world that we created basically since the 40s, 50s. There's a reason why we have 800 military bases throughout the world. And that is to keep the sea lanes open, free trade. But it's not free trade because it always benefits a certain group of people, either here or rich people abroad. And it always takes advantage of the people that have it the worst. You look at how many places in Africa that have diamonds and oil and other resources that are desperately wanted throughout the world. Why does that country not benefit? And people say, oh, the corruption in the government. Or it's the people that come in and make sure that the government doesn't benefit from it, make sure that the people don't benefit from it, and constantly benefit themselves while keeping everybody else out of the loop. I am going to talk a lot more about this when I start talking about collapse as a topic, because I think people are afraid of it. And I understand why, rightfully so. But the alternative is continuing to suck money, resources, oil out of everywhere in the world. And I don't know if you've noticed, but billionaires keep getting more billions of dollars. It's not enough. Like when I was a kid, if you said you're a millionaire, that's a lot of money. Now, you have to have 401k just to retire. There's people currently with hundreds of billions of dollars, which is a failure of the tax system. And honestly, every time somebody says, well, if you tax them, then they'll leave, screw them. Let them leave. Let that country do the same thing until billionaires are just not a thing. They're not common. They're not people that can buy governments and own everything. Because once they have so much money and power and influence, they believe they're as smart as they think they are. And that's wild. Because for whatever you think of past presidents and whatnot, at least they got voted in. Now, the process is obviously flawed. You don't get to pick. You get to, what somebody said a long time ago, I don't have to rig an election. All I have to do is choose who the candidates are. And that's the system we have now. We need more parties. We need major change. But I don't think that change is the worst thing. And I know if it keeps staying the same, only a handful of people benefit. I just want to say that, it's kind of disjointed because I'm trying to formulate how I'm going to get into collapse, how I'm going to arrange the topics. Some of it is literally going to be things like, if you want to create a neighborhood association of some sort, how do you respond to disasters, for example? Because we cut FEMA, so the federal government probably isn't going to come to help you, especially if you're in a blue state. You'd probably better have a plan to help yourself. So it'll be things like getting radios for communication. How do you organize a search after a disaster if you need to check on your neighbors? How do you take care of people locally when the government starts to fall apart and can no longer do that? There's some things you can do locally. There's some things that are very difficult to do locally. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to do your best, because I think we're going to have a major simplifying event. And I don't know how else it gets better, honestly, if it doesn't start to break. Because almost the worst thing that can happen, I think, is if let's say somehow Trump gets impeached, removed, and then the next election we get a sensible, reasonable Democrat, and they go back to business as usual. We didn't address any of the problems that were already there before this guy got in charge. He's just a symptom of what's broken. And the fact that all the stuff that Biden did, most of it's been erased at this point. The rest of it, the Republicans have taken credit for. I don't know. This is a topic that I really want to dig into, and I'm not sure how to organize it in such a way I can cut it up into small chunks. I may have to do a couple long versions of videos, or maybe I'll break it up into smaller, I don't know. But my next, the major project I want to get to after I deal with politics, or at least start keeping up with it, is going to be organizing locally and dealing with things locally. Like, one of the things I've really dug into in the past few years is disaster preparedness, because I live in a place where a 9-point plus earthquake is going to hit at some point. And I live in a country that's falling apart as fast as you can watch it happen. So I have been preparing for some of this stuff. I don't prepare for the end of the world because, honestly, I don't think you want to live through that. And honestly, all the people that are ready for it, they've had lifelong training and they'll be fine. You having, a bunch of food in your closet and some water filters probably not going to cut it for, the zombie apocalypse. All those people are just going to take your stuff. But anyway, that's a topic I'm going to get into. I'm planning it now. It's going to be a lot. And I'm still deciding whether I want to keep doing this for too long. I'm going to do it for a month for sure. I'm going to see where I'm at. I got some shorts that had a lot of traction this weekend. But anyway, don't be afraid of change. Start to look at ways to organize and organize locally. Because I think that's going to become very important. It's going to be very important who your neighbors are, much more than it has been so far. And we live in a society where people don't know their neighbors anymore. Anyway, it's kind of random. I wanted to get that off my chest. Look forward to, if you like this kind of stuff. I know it's kind of here and there, but I'm still deciding what I'm going to do. Collapse is coming, though.